على حبه مسكينا ويتيما واسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. The Quran says do that. But at the same time, the Quran says, hey, but don't do just that. There is something more important. Al-jihad fi sabilillah. And jihad fi sabilillah is not fighting. Jihad is a broad term. A lot of people get scared when you say jihad. Oh, we're going to go to jail because you're talking jihad. The idiots that don't understand Arabic language, they think that jihad and qital are the same. Qital is a special case of jihad. Jihad is broad. You sitting here on a Saturday evening when you could be watching a football game or some college football or whatever is going on right now is a form of jihad, because you have to suppress that urge to watch that game or to go out and hang out with your friends, and you have to come here. It's a low-level jihad, but it is a form of jihad. Every time you lower your gaze when you see something that you shouldn't be looking at, that's a form of jihad. 1.5 million things count as jihad, but they're not all the same. The ultimate jihad, of course, is to sacrifice your life fi sabilillah. And we're not required to do that because we are not in Dar Harb. We are in a Dar Salam. We are in a peaceful abode. We are under visa contract. And Allah says, Ya alladhina amanu awfu bil'uqud uhillat. We are bound by the visa that we took when we came to this country. The visa says we will behave civically and civilly and peacefully, and we will get protected. When they violate it, we sue them. If we violate it, they'll put us in jail. It's a simple formula, and everybody needs to understand that. Over there, they have other options, and we cannot speak for them. So what I'm going to share with you now is an example of what is political activism. And we're going to go through the list one by one. And I want some interaction. I want you to ask questions about it. So let's see what we got here. Here it is. So what you see here is examples. These are indicators of political activism. Things that you do. If you were taking my survey, the one that I conducted a year ago, and I used it as basis for my research, you would have had to answer a question like this. It says, do you do any of these political activities? Select all that applies. And you would go check, yes, no, whatever you answer. Later on, I analyzed your response plus 934 other people, and that's what I used as a basis for my research. Do you understand? So this is one question out of a whole bunch of questions you had to answer. You had to spend about 11, 12 minutes just answering the survey. And this was one question in the survey. So these are the items on the list. Number one. The first one is, do you subscribe to political emails? Now, if you get generic email that's sent to everybody that says, vote for me, send me money or whatever, that's not the same. To subscribe to political email means that there is somebody out there conveying specific material, and you get to hit subscribe, meaning send me what you got. And that when you get it, you actually pay attention to it. You don't have to read every single email, but that's what's the difference. Not generic, you subscribe to it. Okay? So that's the first one. The second one, during the elections, do you go around saying to people, so who are you going to vote for? Why do you vote this way? Why don't you vote that way? And here's the thing. To be a political activist, you have to be the one initiating the call. Otherwise, it doesn't count. It means you have to be on purpose here. Your antenna is up, and you're going around engaging people. Number three, during the election, do you try to get people to vote a certain way? You go to somebody and say, are you voting Democrat or are you voting Republican? Are you voting independent? Are you voting for this guy or that guy? Why do you vote for this one? Why don't you vote for that one? This kind of engagement counts as political activism. Okay? Next. You've seen them, the bumper stickers, the button that says, vote for this or vote for that, or, you've seen them. So because the reason why this counts as political activism is because it could put you on the spot. It could actually get you beat up sometimes. Like if you're in the South and you're walking around with, I voted for Hillary or something like that, they'll kick your butt. Because down there, they don't like Hillary. They don't like Democrats, period. Okay. So the next one is I contact public officials or public leaders. What I trained you on last week qualifies, because you are not making generic call. You're calling a specific person. You're calling your congressperson and you're saying, hello, this is my name. I live in your district. I voted for you. There is genocide going on. Young Palestinian children and women are being murdered. By the way, in my script, I said they're dying. And one of my brothers called me out. He said, they're not dying, they're being killed. I said, look, it's a slip of a tongue. Give me a break. I mean, sometimes when you talk a lot, sometimes you slip. Of course, they're not dying. They're being murdered. Who are we kidding? So anyway, that counts. That kind of a call where you're putting somebody on the spot, that counts as political activism. Okay. The next one is contributing money, donations. I sent money to Ilhan Omar. I sent money to Rashida Tlaib. I sent money to this person or that person. That counts. You volunteer to help political organization. So let's say there is AMP or there is CARE or whatever, and they need volunteers. You spend time and effort to go help them out. That counts as political activism. The next one is you attend political meetings or rallies. Is this the same as attending a protest for Palestine? Yes or no? What do you think? I want the young girls here to answer. What do you think, Amo? Yeah. Attending a protest. No, hold on. Let her think. Attending a protest, is it the same as attending a rally? A rally is when, let's say I'm running for office, and I say, I'm going to be speaking to the people of Union about why they should vote for me. So I stand there and I start, I'm sorry? Okay. So everybody comes and I get to talk and say, Assalamu alaikum, and vote for me, and we get into a conversation. That's a rally, because it's there for a reason. A protest, everybody's just screaming about a specific issue. Are they the same? Why does one count as a political activism and one does not? What do you think? Okay, let's hear from somebody a little older. Pay attention. Okay, who else? I think she raised her hand. I don't mean to embarrass you, but she raised her hand a little prematurely. What do you guys think? Here, there? What's the difference? Come on, I gave you half the answer. Yeah. Well, a protest has a purpose. To protest against something going on, like the genocide, right? So it's not targeted. It's generic in a way. It's not targeted at any one person standing in front of you. A rally is there for a reason. What is the purpose of a rally? When Trump holds these rallies that are attended by thousands of people, what's the purpose of the rally? It's to gather support, right? It's to gather support. So a rally counts as political activism. Okay? A protest does not. We'll see in a moment. A protest counts as political voice. Voice, you're just screaming. And it actually doesn't count as anything. In the realm of things, we do it because we want to show that our displeasure, but in reality, the real effect comes from political activism, not from political voice. You're not going to hear this from anybody other than this class. So I attend political meetings where maybe a politician will do a town meeting somewhere, and you go sit down and you listen, and then you ask questions. And you say, so-and-so, why did you vote this way on, why did you vote against the ceasefire? Huh? Like that. And watch them go hum, 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 hum. And then you say, well, you know, because you voted against the ceasefire, I'm not going to vote for you. And you pick yourself up and you walk out. That's how you teach them a lesson. And now imagine if 200 people did that out of 300. You think that would be a strong message? Yes or no? Yeah. That's political action. I solicit political funds. Let's say you did an evening, like we have an evening with Ilhan Omar coming up. I'm not sure exactly when. The Indian brothers are inviting her because she is active with the Hindutva thing and what's going on in India and so on. So they have an evening where they're going to raise some funds for her. She probably would walk home with $50,000 or something like that. Good. The last two, hardly anybody answered in my survey, only a couple of people, which is, I've been a candidate, I ran for office. Or the other one, I am actually in office, like Mayor Khairallah or one of those people who have been in office. So all of these count as political activities that if you are doing one or two or three or whatever number of them, then you are a political activist. Okay? Any questions? All right. The next one now is the other one, the one that the Quran tells us it ain't the same. This is the one that we love to do. Okay? The question is, do you donate time, money, or effort for the benefit of any of the following? Guess what's number one? The masjid, a school, an Islamic organization, okay? An organization involved with the youth or children, an organization involved in health, social services, helping the poor, the elderly, the homeless, okay? An effort to solve community problems. Is a في مشكلة في neighborhood, okay? And we get together to try to work on it. Fundraising for charity, not for political activity. This is civic activism. I'm sorry? What do you think? Well, just out of the top of your head, all of you, which one do you think we do so much more of? This group or the other one? This group. Now you see why we're unable to make a difference? You see why? Because this, even though we'll get the reward from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's good for da'wah, but in reality, do you think Biden cares how many hungry people you fed? Honestly, do you think he cares? Did I share with you the story of the Dallas Morning News? You probably forgot. I'll tell you the story. A few years ago, there was a bombing, the first big bad bombing in this country. It was in Oklahoma. You remember that? The Oklahoma City bombing back in 1994, I think. Some white dude who had been in the army by the name Tim McVeigh, he was mad at the government. So he went and put together a huge bomb in a truck. He took it to a building called the Albert Morrow Federal Building, a big, huge federal building that housed federal employees and also a school, a daycare for their children and all that stuff. And he just blew up the building, killed several hundred people. I don't remember how many people died, but it was nasty. And in the beginning, everybody thought it was Muslims. It's the Muzzies, they did it. And they went around looking for Muslims. I was interviewed. They came after a whole bunch of us. Yeah. All of a sudden, by the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, the guy was stopped. He was running from one state to the other. He was stopped. And they put 1 + 1 together and they found him, and it was Tim McVeigh. He was later on executed. But here's the thing. When that tragedy happened, Look, it was long before 9/11. It was in 94. The Muslims of Dallas, under the leadership of Holy Land Foundation, over 200 of them volunteered and went to Oklahoma, not too far away from Texas. Oklahoma and Texas share a border. So they went across and they helped out as much as they could. The Dallas Morning News, in its big headlines, oh, the Muzzies are good people, you know. Muslims, charity, they are nice people. Look, they're helping in Oklahoma. Fast forward after 9/11, they started bashing the Muslims. Same newspaper. They're saying all kinds of bad things about Muslims. So the Muslims questioned them and said, what happened to all the good Muslims that helped in Oklahoma? Believe it or not, the response was, listen to this, they are useful idiots. They actually published that. Said the Muslims are useful idiots. And the community was up in arms. They picketed the paper. They demanded a retraction. They demanded an apology. And finally, the paper came back and said, okay, we're sorry. And that was the end of that. What's the moral of this story? Why am I telling you this story? Can anybody try to link that with this? What are we talking about? Anybody? Take a shot at it? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They're both the same. And in both cases, the Muslims did something about it. But in one case, people were calling them idiots. Because not everybody understands when we do something good, why we do it. They think we're idiots. We don't know what we're doing. But do you see the connection between this and the two lists that I shared earlier? What were the Muslims of Oklahoma doing? Civic or political? Civic. And to the general public, we are what? What do they call us? A bunch of useful idiots. So, wallahi, on the member, I said it more than once. I spent an entire month talking about priorities. I asked the Musallin, are you okay to be called a useful idiot? How many would accept that? I don't want to be a useful idiot. I want to be the one that holds Biden by the throat and say, why are you doing this to us? And the only way you can do this is by being strong and by knowing what you're talking about and by holding these elected officials from Biden down to their promises on the campaign trail when we voted for them. Of course, the message now should be, never again, Mr. Biden. You are a loser, you're going to lose. All Muslims all over the country are determined to vote against Democrats and against Biden, no matter who is the winner. I was asked that during the convention, on stage in front of 4,000 people, what I thought about the election. And I shared with them my thoughts, and I told them it's not final. Because I'm the kind of guy that likes to consult with leaders of the community nationwide. I don't come out on the fringes with my own thought just so that I become Khalif Ta'raf, to become famous. But my thought right now is that the best thing we can agree on is to vote every incumbent out of office in every election until the SOBs learn a lesson. Let me repeat what I said. No to term anybody. Anybody in office, my theory, it doesn't matter which party. Anybody who's in office will vote against him. Will be able to make a difference. Because no incumbent can stay in office without the Muslims' vote. I guarantee you. There's enough of us around the country. Don't spread this. This is just for me to share with you to think about. It's not final. I'm the first person to say to our collective leadership, if they can ever get together, sam'an wa ta'a. But it hasn't, it's still early, so we haven't made any decision. I'll probably be part of a discussion on this issue. Back to our topic. So why am I sharing with you that getting busy with civic work as opposed to political work is being useful idiots? Is that in line with what the ayah says in Surah At-Tawbah or different? Well, what do you think? It's just another way of saying the same thing. The Quran is saying la yastawun. They're not the same. They're not the same. Now, here's political voice. A lot of people do these things, and it's good to do them when you have nothing better to do. But in reality, it's just voice. You're just screaming. Here they are. The first one, have you ever taken part in any of these activities? The first one, protest. Long live Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Okay. I've been attending those since 1976. Wallahi, your own parents were not born when I was doing this. Not you, your parents were not born. Did it make a difference? Let's be honest. Did it make a difference? Wallahi, I was part of a 1 million-person demonstration in Washington for Bosnia. It was estimated that there was at least 500,000. I was there. I'm sorry? No. But what I'm saying, I'm trying to compare the effectiveness. All I'm saying is we have options. And the Quran tells us that the Quran favors one over the other. So political voice, نعم أضعف الإيمان. من رأى منكم منكرا حديث الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. Anyone who sees something bad, منكر, فليغيره بيده. فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه. فإن لم يستطع وذلك أضعف الإيمان. Protest is باللسان. ماشي. But again, everything is comparative. I'm just comparing. Okay? So yeah, I've been protesting. I would never tell somebody not to go. I would take my own grandchildren to a protest, knowing very well that it's not going to change much. It's just a way for us to vent our frustration, to show the world the justice of our cause and all of these things. But at the end of the day, ya ikhwa and ya akhawat, they're still doing what they want to do. They are not changing anything. Public opinion is changing. I agree. But it's more because of the posts, more because of social media, more because of those protests being on social media. In other words, if the protest was done without the presence of the social media, it's not. I'm telling you, I was part of a 500,000 demonstration that nobody heard about because it was in DC. The people in DC around us saw us screaming and shouting for Bosnia. But at the end of the day, you know what made things happen? I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. We had a congressman who was like Menendez right now. He was like the head of either Senate the Foreign Relations Committee. His name was Robert Terschelli from Bergen County. You probably have no idea who he is because he fell from grace in a big scandal about 20 years ago. So Robert Terschelli was able to do something about what was going on. A doctor by the name Katovic, he's probably the first Muslim in all of Bergen County, a professor at Fairleigh Dickinson from Bosnia. His son is Sabat Katovic. And the Katovic family who are in central Jersey, that's his family. His wife was also a professor. So he and a group of us went and met with Terschelli in his office with a map of Bosnia, a map of Sarajevo. Dr. Katovic pointed to where the bombs were falling from, the exact mountains where the Serbians had their artillery, and how they were killing people inside of Sarajevo. And he actually told them if NATO was to take out these positions, Sarajevo will be safe. People will be walking around safely. Believe it or not, 2-3 weeks later, that's exactly what happened. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of work that makes a difference. At a time when Libya, when Gaddafi was about to fall, and nothing still was going on, there was a risk that Gaddafi was going to burn Libya alive. Okay? The head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, you can look it up, is my next door neighbor. He died. Sahyuni ibn Kalb. His name was, I didn't say that. His name was Lautenberg. He's the founder of the New Jersey Zionist Organization. So he's my neighbor. I ran into him at 12 o'clock midnight in the lobby of my building. I pinned him against the wall. And I said, Senator, what are we going to do about Libya? Gaddafi is going to burn Libya alive. Wallahi, within a few days, NATO was bombing. Now, I can't take credit for that. What I'm saying is, that's the kind of work that works. He probably heard from me and maybe 100 other people around the same issue, emails and calls, and everybody does his little bit until at one point, they say, okay, let's do something. You see what I'm saying? So that's what makes a difference. And we are hearing directly from the offices of these public officials. They are feeding us back information. I'm getting it every day. They're saying, keep up the pressure. It's working. They're telling us it's working. And that's with probably 5% of us actually making the calls. Imagine if more do it. And imagine if the ones that are doing it, instead of doing it once a week, they do it once a day. Once a day, you call your congressman, stop the genocide in Gaza. Like with your cup of coffee in the morning. Wallah, you say, Bismillah, let me call my congressman. You pick up the phone and you call. And you don't do anything. You don't go to work. You don't do anything until you make those calls. That will make a difference. I promise you. So, protest, great. Again, don't think I'm saying don't go to protest. I'm usually the one in the front, screaming his lungs out. But what I'm saying is do everything else. Contacted public officials to ask for assistance or something or the other. This is different from political action, which is calling on a specific issue and demanding specific action. This is you asking for help or just voicing an opinion. It's almost the same. It's hard to differentiate between the two. Contacting newspaper or magazine or posting nowadays. Calling a radio or a television show. In the old days, that was a big deal. Nowadays, you know, with the social media, nobody's calling radio shows except Trump's people. Because they have no idea what TikTok is. Anyway, signed a petition. They say the dumber you are, the more Republican. Doesn't matter. Signed a petition about political or social issue, online or offline, participated in a boycott, participated in a boycott. What's the difference between boycott and boycott? You have any idea what's the difference? To boycott is to not buy from Puma, from Walmart, from Starbucks. To boycott is to find a brand that is actually a good brand, like Ben & Jerry's, who refused to operate in the settlements and to actually buy their ice cream. That's called a boycott. You're not going to find it in the Oxford Dictionary, I promise you. Boycott, مقاطعة. Boycott, musharaka. Buy, that you are buying from somebody to support them. Had ibn halal, somebody nice said, I stand with Palestine. Okay? So every one of us decides to support them. That's it. So there are two different forms. One is you hold on to your money. The other one, you look for a company that is actually, or an organization that's actually good, and you support them. You buy their product. That's the difference between the two. Yeah. Like there's a lot of people that buy Palestinian olive oil, for instance. It's being marketed nowadays, Palestinian products made in, just be careful because there is also some Israeli products that are being marketed as Palestinian. So we have to be careful. Like Jordan River dates, they're settlement dates. There's a list of about 11 companies that market dates under Arabic names and Muslim names, and they are actually all settlement dates. And I'd rather eat poison than eat them. So anyway, so now I'm going to share with you what difference this makes. It's hard for you to see this. Let me see if I can enlarge it somehow. What you're seeing here, this is called regression analysis. It's a very advanced analysis technique. Does anybody here ever taken the regression? 1, 2? Okay. So regression means you take two variables and you see how one affects the other one. It's a mathematical process that shows you what affects what. There are two variables. So the variable we're studying here is political participation. And we're trying to see what are the indicators that have a positive or negative effect on political participation, okay? So let's take a look. Forget about age. South Asians, these are, the base is being an Arab, okay? Our South Asian brothers are 50% negative in the political participation arena. You understand what I mean? This is based on their responses. I'm not bashing them. My granddaughters are Desis. My daughter is married to a Pakistani. What this is saying is that people who are South Asians, Indian and Pakistani, being South Asian means you are 50%, 48% less likely to be politically active. Because many of their shuyukh do not believe in politics. They think they're still in Pakistan. It's sad. And by the way, we have Arabs too. This doesn't say that the Arabs are not like that. This says this is 50% less than the Arabs. It doesn't mean the Arabs are good. It means if we're here, they're here. You understand what this is saying? I set being an Arab as the standard. As bad as it is, doesn't matter. The Arabs are here. So the Pakistanis are here. You see the point? This is my research. You can't imagine how many people are waiting to see these results published, because a lot of programs are going to have to be adjusted based on this. And I've already started talking, and some people are not happy because of this, because they take it as an accusation. It's not an accusation. I'm analyzing the data that you gave me. I didn't make this stuff up. I have 935 responses from around the country. More than 35% of them are from South Asians. And when I analyze the data, this is what it shows me. Okay? What else? Postgraduates are 68% more likely to be politically active than people who are not college educated. So the more educated a person is, the more politically active they are. That's what this is saying. Let's look at the mosque. There's a question. I can show you the question. The question says, you have to check one of the following statements. There's a statement that says, my mosque encourages me to be active, okay? Those people who say that I follow the encouragement of the mosque, they are negatively associated with political activism. But what the heck is the mosque teaching you? If these people are being recruited by the mosque, they are involved with the mosque organization, what is the mosque teaching them? They're teaching them politics is haram. That's what they're teaching them. You see, they're saying, I'm recruited by the masjid. But I happen to also be less politically active by this much. What are we doing? We are recruiting kids and teaching them to be darawish. What time is it? I got to wrap up. I'll share with you a couple more. Look at the one next to it now. Look at the next one. The 38%. This one. The mosque skills. Look at the one that says mosque skills. Is that positive or negative? Interesting. So if you were involved in some classes in the masjid and you learned some skills, does this ring a bell? How about 3 weeks ago when we were doing the role playing? That's considered a phone calling skill. Now, when you learn that skill, am I gonna follow you at home and say, use it here, don't use it there? It's a skill. If I teach you how to write a letter, you can use it any way you want. So away from the influence of the elite of the masjid, the Sheikh Abu Lihya, okay, away from the elite, you are using it the right way. It's positively associated with political activism. It's doing its job. But those who are mostly influenced by the elite in the organization, whether it's a masjid or another organization, who are telling them, halal, haram, do this, don't do that, the relationship, it's inverse. It's actually negative. Let me conclude by sharing another table with you. This is depressing, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to show you this table here. This is, remember we said that there's civic activism and there's political activism. So from all the respondents, I figured out what is the percentage of people who are, listen to this, who are dual activists. In other words, they do both. The percentage of people who are civic activists, who do a lot of civics, political activists, and nothing, nada, zilch. 50%, approximately 50%, zero. So you want to make a difference for Gaza? Let's activate those 50%. I hope and pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that they're waking up right now and saying, what's wrong with me? I can do this. I can make a phone call. I can post. I can demonstrate. I can do something. Because if they don't, wallahi, on the day of judgment, Allah will ask them. You are going to be put in a position where Allah will say, what have you done? You watched those kids die. You cried your eyes out, but then you did absolutely nothing. Wallahi, that's haram. Athim. Anyway, so what are the percentages? We said there are people who are civic activists and political activists. So what I did, I reported the civic activist percentage. And I reported the political activists, and then I divided the civic over the political to get a ratio. In other words, I wanted to see in this one demographic, let's say the Arab, or the women, or the whatever category, how many of them are activists? How many of them are political activists? Let's divide one over the other. What's the ratio? Okay? In the general population, a guy by the name Keeter, with a big team with him, with a huge, massive budget, did a study that involved 25,000 young people back in 2002. It's the first line. Keeter found that 16% of the sample were civic activists. Okay? He found that 20% are political, 16% are dual, and 48%, Allah ya'tihum afi. Okay? They did nothing. The sample is 15,000. I apologize. I thought it was 25,000. So the ratio of civic to political, which is the last column, what is the ratio? 0.8. Now let's look at the Arabs. I'm just joking. The religious, the ones, now don't ask me how did I determine religious. That's a very long process. It involved how often do you go to the masjid? How many times do you pray a day? How important is Islam in your life? All these questions, I took the answers, combined them together in one single index, and that index had 11 stages in it. So at the bottom, you're not religious at all. When you have 11, you are the most religious. Piety is dripping from your beard. And then we we took that indicator, okay, and I looked at those people to see how politically active, how civic activists, whatever. Look at the number. 39% of them are civic activists. Look at how many of them are political activists. شايفين بالله عليكم? And then when you divide 39 by 5, what's the percentage? 7.6%. 10 times, almost 10 times the general population. يعني والله بدي اقول الله لا يعطيهم عافيه بس a lot of them are actually ignorant. I shouldn't say that. A lot of them are just doing it out of ignorance. If they were doing it intentionally الواحد بزعل. Yeah. Yeah, well that's the problem. The problem يا اختي goes back home. Back home, the politics domain is the domain of the corrupt leadership. They don't want anybody to talk politics. The moment you talk politics, they put you in jail. Okay, here's the problem. We've been here 50 years. Isn't it enough to forget that? Why are we still hanging on to those thoughts? I'm here 50 years. Many of us are here 30, 40, 50 years. Enough is enough. And we're no longer going back. How many of us after 20 years or 30 years or 40 years are still saying back home? What back home? I'm here, my children, my grandchildren. My daughter got married in 2000. If she had babies early enough, my granddaughter would be in college right now. And I'm still every once in a while catching myself saying back home. Are you kidding me? So, but the point there, again, the problem is that many people still consider politics a bad thing because that's what they put in our head back home. Okay? And it's about time. Now, you guys don't have this problem because you've never lived overseas. You have no idea what we're talking about. But over there, if two people leaned on each other and said, so what do you think about the new president? By the time you're done with your statement, 3 people have reported you, each one rushing to submit the report first because the second and the third are going to be accused of not doing their job. I'm not kidding you. When I got engaged, I went to visit my wife's family in Baghdad during the time of Saddam, at the height. And in a conversation where there's a whole bunch of people, I was told, don't mention not one word of politics. Later on, she explained to me, she said, we think a couple of people of our family are Ba'athis. And the thing is, it's not that they would report. They will race to report because the first one that reports is the one doing the job. The other ones are slacking or they will be punished. Look how bad things are over there. Mukhabarat, anyway, that's not our issue. So let's look at number 2. The religious ones, their ratio is what? You saw the number. 7.6. Look at these are the people say, I'm in the center. I'm not right, I'm not left. I'm not, okay. These people, same thing, 6. Look at Republicans, 5.7. Oh, the ones who are very involved in the masjid, always in the masjid, 5.5. South Asians, our Pakistani brothers, Jazakumullah khair, 5 to 1. 5 to 1. Females, there's sadly a tendency, and there's a reason for that. It's culture, number 1. Number 2, accessibility, ease. A lot of the things that our sisters do are in line with their place in structure, and we have to change that. Our sisters could be in the forefront of political activism. We just have to think of creative ways to do it without putting them in harm's way. That's another discussion. So anyway, younger people. Now let's look at the next one. This is the one where the people who have good ratio are Democrats, 2.6, older people, people who belong to an active organization like ICNA, ISNA, MAS, people like that, they're trained to be activists. But here's the sad one. People who say, I'm not religious at all. Look at their ratio. See that? People who are not involved in the masjid. Other ethnicities, you know what other ethnicities is? These are people who are not Sunnis. Look how politically active they are. You see that? That should light a bulb in our head. And then you look at people who don't pray. People who don't pray daily. It's like, oh, أنا بصليش. Look at that. And the people who are left ideology, and last but not least, religion is not even important to me. This is sad that the people among us who are farthest away from the masjid and who are not religious at all are actually doing the right thing, while the ones who are supposed to be leading the pack, confronting the tyrants, correcting what's wrong, are actually busy feeding the hungry and being useful idiots. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. I'm done. If anybody has any question, yeah. Sunnis, we are all Sunnis, I think, here. Is any Shia here? Okay, in my sample, 85% of the people here are Sunnis. They are the followers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They glorify Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. There's another sect that have slightly different beliefs. They're called Shia. So this is about the Shia. When you grow up, inshallah, you will learn about the difference between Sunni and Shia and Zotta'win and all the other ones. Okay, who's next? That's a good question, though. I appreciate you asked. Anybody else? Any question? Any comment? Yeah. Yeah. No, what do you think? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think that's a big deal. I think the real issue is that there are people that are against politics blanket, like all politics is haram. And that's where the problem is. If somebody says don't vote for Biden, they're not saying don't vote. But there are people out there that are saying you're citizen, you're right as a citizen, a right that people sacrifice their life for, to be able to cast that vote. A vote. The other day, one of the brothers running for office, he lost by one single vote. Here in New Jersey. Wallahi, one vote. I saw the results. One vote. So those people, I gave you an example right here, you probably forgot it, about a district in California where their sheikh told them that voting is haram, getting involved in politics is haram, 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 haram. So they sat on their hands, the election came, and the Board of Education was all LGBTQ. What do you think they're teaching their kids now in school? The rainbow. They get to learn how to draw. Now, whose fault is it? I would grab that sheikh and send him back to Mozambique or wherever he came from. Wallahi, I'd put him on the first plane and say, get out of here, you don't belong here. I will not have any mercy on a sheikh that gives a fatwa like that. I will debate them, I'll discuss, I'll explain. I'll say to them, yeah, sheikh, we are giving opportunity to pick our leaders, to pick the topics they vote on, to pick how they vote, to do all of these things. And you're telling me, I should say, nah, thanks, I'd rather have somebody else pick for me. Are you kidding me? A sheikh like that doesn't belong here. They need to go back to the village that they came from. Wallahi, they don't belong here. And it's about time we start voicing our opinion. Because these shuyukh and imams, alhamdulillah, not here, but in many communities around the country, who's paying their salary? Us. So we need to hold them accountable. If I hear you for 1 minute whispering in our kids' ears that politics is haram or voting is haram, you'll lose your job. I'm going to send you back to whatever the heck village you came from, because that's where you belong. Because you probably belong that women are half as good as men. You probably believe a lot of garbage like that. And if you think I'm kidding, one organization in New York sent me their bylaws. Take a look at. On the second page, it says only men allowed on the board. I gave it back to them and said, I'm not interested. Take this bylaws of yours and you know what to do with it. Yeah. Yeah. No, not anymore. See, that's the mistake. We will vote, but we will, اسمحي we will have to be strategic about it. We have a year to figure this out. That's why I said to you, let's wait. Let's not decide. We need to sit down and decide and figure out. There might be a third-party candidate coming forward that might be a good alternative. It's still early. We're definitely not going to vote for Trump. No, see, that's a big mistake. That is, يا أختي, that, اسمحي لي. When you don't vote, you are telling them we don't exist. And you are actually sending them a message, اعملوا فينا اللي انتوا عاوزين. That's it. يا أختي, I said earlier, one of the ways, I'm going to wrap it up. One of the ways that we can get back at them is to vote. Do you know the word incumbent, what it means? Maybe I'm speaking over some of your heads. You know what the word incumbent means? The person who's in office now. A policy could be vote against anyone who's in office. This way, none of them will have two terms. You understand what I'm saying? This is something we can all agree on. The question is, yes, we're voting against Democrats. The big question is going to be, who are we going to vote for? Okay, so the first decision is we're all going to vote against the Democrats. The next question is going to be, who are we voting for? Republican, la samhallah. So then there's only one other option. Is there anybody in the middle? So there could be a Green Party candidate, like years ago it was Ralph Nader. There's Green, there's a couple of people. So it's still early. Let's all agree we're not going to vote for Biden or Trump. Let's all think strategically about who else can we vote for. So when we vote, we will be counted. It doesn't matter how we voted. They know we exist. When we don't vote, then nobody cares about us. We are sending them a message, افعل زي ما انت عايز. And that we cannot do. One last question.